All right, well, let's go out to the West Coast here fresh. Let's go to our second game of the week. It is in Pasadena, California. No one's ever going to compare the Rose Bowl to Circus Circus. I'll tell you that much. Washington State is heading out to UCLA. Right now, at time of record, UCLA is a 3.5 point favorite. Over under is set at 59 points here. I think Washington State has maybe the best story that none of us are talking about.
Oh, no doubt. And it starts with Cam Ward. I mean, he is leading the second best passing attack in the nation with 460 yards a game is what they're averaging. I think he gets overshadowed because of the Bo Nixes, the Caleb Williams, the Shadur Sanders, the Michael Penix Jr.'s out there in the conference where he becomes the fourth or fifth quarterback. But he's been doing it just as long, if not longer, than a couple of those guys when he started off at Incarnate Word. And then last year and the year before that at the Washington State, he just continued to generate offense, use his legs, use his arm, be very electric, and put up points. But on the other side, that defense has played very stout. Cougars have two impressive wins over Oregon State and Wisconsin, And the wins over the Badgers and the Beavers is not just because their offense was fantastic, but their defense was relentless and always attacking, forcing turnovers, getting off the field, and feeding off of the energy of playing at home. Up in Pullman, I think there's also probably added a little energy that everyone's abandoned Oregon State and Washington State, and both those programs are playing a little bit upper this year because they're like, screw you guys, we're going to do it by ourselves. But they have all banded together and they're playing great football. But Ward is the leader in the way that he manipulates the defense and be able to use his legs to create other space for receivers to get open, or even just his vision to throw the ball and pull safeties off. He has done and grown every single year. And that's a big factor coming into this football game because UCLA's defense is extremely talented. They are completely night and day compared to the past 3 or 4 seasons. They're actually the reason why UCLA is good right now. That defense is locking people down while Dante Moore, the quarterback, and his running back contingent sort of get gelled together, get built up under that Kelly offense. This is kind of a meeting of what Kelly usually wanted, his fast offense to fly around. We still haven't seen that yet, but the defense is keeping him alive. Can that defense get after him in this football game is probably the biggest question. Yeah, they've beaten Coastal Carolina. They've beaten San Diego State from a UCLA perspective. This is going to be that first true challenge at home. They went to Utah a couple weeks ago, didn't have Cam Rising. They played okay, but their offense only scored 7 points. They lost 14-7. They looked very clunky. They looked very out of sorts. It wasn't the greatest showing. In that Utah game, Moore was 15 for 35 for 234, touchdown and a pick, and was sacked 7 times. It means the offensive line was not giving him much time. He was very indecisive with the football. They didn't get the running game truly going behind Steele and behind Harden, and that put all pressure on him. It was not like the game was out of reach and they could have had a sort of throwing completed the entire time. They could have kept the running game going, but they couldn't get that going either. The offensive line is going to have to get better for this football game and be able to pick up the pace to support the running game and to support their quarterback more, or that Washington State Cougar defense under Coach Dickert is going to feast because they know they have an offense. If they're down 10-0, they're not going to worry because they have the players to get back in the football game. But if your offense can't score and that defense is shutting you down, it's just going to continue to be an avalanche from the Cougars' perspective to pour it on. This is a big challenge for the coaching perspective, though, from Chip Kelly. How can you develop this young freshman quarterback, get this offense and this offensive line to gel and play at a faster pace to compete with the better offenses? Because it's only going to get more from here. You're going to have to start playing the Oregons, the Washingtons, the USCs, et cetera, down the road. How can you take advantage of this opportunity to play a great passing attack with very limited rushing attack, one of the better offenses in the country, prepare your defense and prepare your team to play at a higher level because they got to play faster. The Utah game was great. They played more on their level of starting out, but now you've taken it to the next round. And I hate to say it, but if you lose this football game, that puts you 0-2 in the Pac-12 with Oregon State, Colorado, Arizona, and USC still to come, among others. This could put you 0-2 in the league, and really you could be 6 losses easily of those 4 teams I named. So the season is technically at stake right now for UCLA. Their dreams, their hopes, what they wanted to be, being an 8, 9, 10-win team could fade quickly if things spiral out of control on Saturday afternoon. I think Washington State has extra energy, and in this football game, they're going to pull off the upset. They're going to come in, take care of business in the Rose Bowl. Big win for Cam Ward. He's going to put on the showcase. Washington State's going to walk out with the dub. And I'm still not truly a full-on believer that UCLA's defense is elite. I'm going to say that Washington puts it on them enough that they hit the over in this football game. We're talking 34-30, somewhere on there, but the over will hit. The Cougars will put up points and walk away with a dub.
Wow. Fresh, the first line in my notes here is what a story Washington State is. Like, this is an amazing story here. Just after everything that happened in the offseason, what Cameron Ward's been able to do for this year, he's got 0 interceptions, 13 touchdowns, 0 interceptions on the year. He's got 3 great receiving targets out there in Lincoln Victor, Josh Kelly, and Kyle Williams. I like all 3 of those guys. Each one of them has 4 or more touchdowns on the season there. And this is really like, you saw what they were able to do. You're home against Oregon State. And I feel like Washington State has been tested already this season. You know, that win over Oregon State's a great football team. We saw what they were able to do to Utah last week. And Washington State really stood and kind of counterpunched with them all game long in that one. Is Washington State able to do the same thing to a really, really good defense? And I like what you said right there, is that we don't know if UCLA's defense is truly elite. Is it really one of the best defenses in the country? They're the best defense right now statistically in the Pac-12, but we're going to really start to learn a lot about UCLA going into this game here. If Washington State's able to put up some points, that over may come in, because Washington State's going to give up some points on their end of the year. And that really comes back to like the point for UCLA. Dante Moore, how does he bounce back from Utah? He was only completing 42% of his passes in that game. It's the first game that they really didn't like click or gel or vibe. But the weird thing is, while going into Utah, statistically, they were better than the Utah offense. Statistically. They didn't match it on the scoreboard, but they looked better there as well. In my mind, UCLA is kind of relying on that running attack. I feel like John Michaels, I'm going to mess this way. Sturdivant. Thank you, Fresh. Ugh, I'm screwing that one already. They need a big play out of him. Like, you look at what he did last year at Cal, he was able to make these big play after big play as well. But he hasn't really done that. I'm looking for that big marquee highlight reel play in the game, especially against like someone like Washington State there. UCLA has a lot of work to do. They have a lot of work to do. They're 3 of 17 on third down against Utah, but that defense did get 4 sacks. And that's where I was kind of like, okay, you know, there are some really concerning things on the offensive side of the football, but the defense looked really, really good. You got Kane Medrano and Latu, both big-time defenders on that defense there. I don't know, man, here, Fresh. I really don't. I think this one's going to be close. I like Washington State and taking the points as well. Give me the plus 3.5 there. But I'm actually going to say the under is going to come in. 59 is a little bit high for me on that point as well. I think that UCLA would be able to keep the defense down. If this does turn into a shootout, I'm actually going to take UCLA. So if I was doing this, I would parlay these two. I would go if I'm going UCLA, I'm taking the over. If I'm going Washington State, I'm going to take the under.
Interesting philosophy there. I mean, I can see if it gets to a shootout, at least UCLA, you have more confidence in getting at least one stop down late in the ball game to get off the field.
Absolutely. And that's kind of my whole thinking with that one. I really like this game. I can't wait to watch this. I'm glad this is a 3:00 kickoff and not like a really like crazy early morning. But I mean, I guess it's a noon kickoff over there on the West Coast.